After staying up all night reading a novel, I transmigrated into the book as the wicked stepmother. The young male protagonist knelt on the ground with a stubborn expression, his thin back covered in old and new whip marks. Thinking of the miserable fate the stepmother would suffer at the hands of the male protagonist in the future, I shuddered all over, threw away the whip, and forced a kind, motherly smile. "Darling, you're so adorable," the system sternly warned. The host must maintain a malicious persona, or face immediate elimination. I immediately roared, "Stop kneeling here and being an eyesore. Get lost, get lost." I'm so unlucky. Staying up all night reading a novel led to sudden death, and I transmigrated into the book as the wicked stepmother. The mission is to redeem the male lead and change the tragic fate of the wicked stepmother. The catch is that I can't break character, or I'll be erased on the spot. The little male lead on the ground stared at me with dark, gloomy eyes, filled with hatred and murderous intent. Is this the male lead, He? In the book, his mother passed away shortly after giving birth to him, and his father, He, had no choice but to marry Luo Qingwan to take care of him. However, this Luo Qingwan turned out to be extremely malicious, subjecting young He to harsh treatment and nearly causing him to freeze, drown, or starve to death on several occasions. He was often away on business, and whenever he returned briefly, Luo Qingwan would always put on a gentle and caring facade. Even if He complained, she would only shed tears weakly, never defending herself. Therefore, He never believed what his son said and would angrily scold him for being unreasonable. Poor He, if not for the protagonist's plot armor, he might have died hundreds of times over. It wasn't until he achieved top honors in the imperial examinations and gained immense power in the court that he finally began his revenge. He gouged out the eyes and cut off the tongue of his wicked stepmother, throwing her into a dungeon, where he would cut a piece of flesh from her body each day, then have someone treat her wounds, but deliberately only halfway. The wound festered and oozed pus repeatedly, the pain and itchiness burrowing deep into her very core. Luo Wanqing endured this torment for a full year before finally breathing her last. Recalling this, a shiver ran through my entire body. "Ah, I don't want to die such a miserable death. System, save me." The system responded coldly, "Host, please be independent and self-reliant." I could only swallow hard, grip the whip tightly, and force out a gentle, motherly smile. "Sweetie, you're so adorable." The system sternly warned, the host must maintain the vicious persona, or face immediate elimination. Arguing with the system, I didn't notice Che's strange expression. He was taken aback when I called him cute, then clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "You vicious woman, what tricks are you trying to play now? Either beat me to death, or I'll find a way to go to school." "Wow, sweetie, your eyes are all red. And the way you're clenching your little fists is just adorable, like a husky with its fur all puffed up. Tilda. I want kisses, I want hugs, I want to be lifted high." My eyes filled with pink bubbles as I cheered inwardly. Che's gaze froze, his expression beginning to grow confused, looking at the red life countdown that had reappeared on the panel. I panicked. "I'm so beautiful and charming. I can't die young." I had no choice but to try the impossible. I hardened my heart and spoke with sarcasm. "Someone like you still wants to go to school. You can't even get on a kang without struggling. Stop kneeling here and getting in the way. Get lost, get lost." Che looked utterly bewildered, mechanically rising to his feet. At the same time, the countdown panel vanished. "So that's how you avoid being flagged by the system for a violation," I thought, a plan instantly forming in my mind. I tossed the whip aside, got up, and headed straight for the kitchen. "My sweet, adorable baby, what do you like to eat? Mom will make it for you." TSK, look at how thin this little body is. So pitiful. Let Mom feed you until you're plump and fair. A stunning older woman raising a young, papa-like male lead. "He, I was secretly pleased with my calculations, but when I turned around, I scolded, "Why aren't you coming over to help me?" This time, Shin-chae didn't stubbornly oppose his stepmother as he had in the book. He stood there frozen. His expression strange, 5 parts confusion, 3 parts doubt, and 2 parts struggle. In the end, I lowered my head and followed him into the kitchen. TSK, even though Shin-hwa is rarely home. The family's conditions are quite decent. On the cutting board lay a chicken, a few potatoes, and a handful of green peppers. Beside them, however, were yellowed, dry cornbread and watery corn porridge. Sigh. This heartless woman always cooks special meals for herself, yet she makes little Shin-chae eat this. Furious, I rolled up my sleeves, grabbed a knife, and started chopping fiercely. Little Shin-chae beside me was startled and silently picked up the cornbread and porridge bowl. Ready to heat them in the pot, I stuck out my foot to trip him, and he stumbled. The cornbread and porridge fell to the ground. Seeing him red-eyed and about to erupt in anger, I wept silently in my heart. Sweetie, don't eat that, it'll give you a stomachache, even pigs wouldn't touch it. But what came out of my mouth was a mocking rebuke. You're so stupid, can't even handle a little thing properly. It's all covered in dust and filthy. Take it to feed the pigs. He was surprisingly obedient. Silently picking it up to feed the pigs. He. Maybe he was intimidated by my domineering aura. My dear little treasure Tilda, Shin-chae, who had just stepped out the door, stumbled slightly with his frail little frame. When he returned, the aroma had already made him involuntarily swallow his saliva. I took a small spoonful and tasted it. Rich and delicious, absolutely amazing. This braised chicken is on par with the ones from certain famous restaurants. Little treasure has definitely never tasted such a delicious dish. Glancing back at his little expression, I frowned and scolded, like a block of wood. Get a bowl. Do you want me to serve you? He silently took a bowl, filled it with rice, and sat down across from me. Staying up all night really makes you hungry. Without paying him any mind, I dug in heartily. The sauce poured over the rice is absolutely amazing. After a long while, I looked up and realized Shin-chae was only taking small bites of plain white rice. His eyes, however, were secretly fixed on the dish, full of longing. Slap. I slammed my chopsticks down, stood up, and left with a single sentence. Finish all these leftovers and wash the dishes. It wasn't until I walked out of the kitchen that Shin-chae finally relaxed and buried his head in the food, eating heartily. Poor little treasure. How long has it been since he had a full meal? Exactly. Pour the broth over it. That's the soul of this way of eating. So clever, my sweet baby. Mommy loves you. I was hiding outside the door, inwardly ecstatic, when he choked and started coughing. Eat slowly, little treasure. All of this is yours. He suddenly put down his bowl and began pounding his chest, then ran to the water vat to scoop up a ladle of water and drink it. Thank goodness, it's fine. This child is so reckless. I walked away with a smile. Back in the room, I started rummaging through boxes and cabinets. This Luo Qingwan really did acquire quite a few silks, satins, and gold and silver jewelry for herself. I pulled out a large stack of silver notes and tucked them into my chest. Leaving the courtyard, I saw Shin-chae shivering as he fed the chickens. It was deep autumn, yet he was dressed in thin clothing. When he saw me come out, perhaps feeling indebted after eating my food, he blushed and muttered stubbornly in a low voice, "Don't think I'll listen to you just because of this. I'm definitely going to school." But, can anyone understand? Family. He's just too adorable. The system reminded me coldly again, and I replied with a stern, impatient face, "Go, go, go. Get away from me, you brat." I couldn't be happier. "Aren't you coming?" "What? Do you want me to go register alone?" I walked to the main gate, then turned back and glared at him again. The boy's face lit up with surprise. He dropped his dustpan and jogged to catch up. And so, mother and son walked one behind the other, in silence all the way to the private school. Other children start school at 4. But Shun-Che is already 5. Because of his wicked stepmother's interference, he was delayed for a year. The teacher stubbornly refused to accept him, saying he was too old. Seeing the disappointment on my little treasure's face, I spoke coldly. "What kind of talk is this, sir?" The master said, "In teaching, there should be no distinction of classes. By practicing this saying, one becomes a teacher for all ages." These words made the teacher tremble with a start. He narrowed his eyes and sized me up. From an angle only he could see, I subtly raised the silver note in my hand. He instantly understood the hint and motioned for Shun-Che to write down his name and enter to study. The little one gave me a complicated look before hurrying inside. I added loudly, "Come home early after school, you rascal, and get to work." Shoving the silver note into the teacher's hand, I said with a flattering smile, "Teacher, please take good care of him. Don't hesitate to discipline him if needed." The last 4 words are just to maintain my persona. You better not take them seriously. Out the door, I wandered aimlessly down the street. Street vendors shouted their wares, with freshly steamed buns still piping hot. The sounds of singing, applause, clanging metal, and dough being slapped together created a noisy, bustling cacophony. Tea houses and taverns stood in rows, along with many shops selling rouge, powder, and ready-made clothing and jewelry favored by women. I strolled, ate, shopped, and carried my purchases, feeling utterly content. Tired, I sat in a tea house listening to storytelling, growing drowsy. By the time the performance ended and I stepped out, the sky had already darkened. Oh no, I forgot to pick up that kid. I grabbed 2 big bags of loot and hurried to the private school entrance. When I arrived, I found it had already closed. I returned home dejectedly, only to find the house brightly lit with candlelight. Kicking the door open, Shun-Che was sitting at the desk doing his homework, his face pale, one hand clutching his stomach. "You little brat, why didn't you wait for me after school?" he replied weakly. "You never said to wait." "Fine, fine." I was worried he might not be used to his first day of school, so I thought about picking him up and dropping him off. Turns out I'm the clown here. I slammed the things onto the table angrily and cursed. "You really have no heart. I'm punishing you. No dinner tonight." Hiding outside the window, I secretly watched the little one open the package. "He, my little treasure, all of these are what Mom bought for you." Shun-Che opened the brown paper bag, taking out a candied hawthorn skewer and several fresh meat buns. "Xiaobao, is your stomach hurting? Eating so much all of a sudden today isn't easy to digest. Have a candied hawthorn skewer, and your stomach won't feel so uncomfortable anymore." He then opened another package, inside of which were several sets of new clothes. "Of course, you need to wear new clothes for school. The weather is getting colder too. How can you not dress warmly? Oh dear, we need to prepare winter clothes as well. Let's just get a few sets for all 4 seasons." I was so pumped up that I clung to the window frame, my mind racing. Raising a son is really not easy. Shun-Che held the object in his hand, his eyes slightly red. After a long while, he shook his head with a smile and took a bite of the candied hawthorn. "Ah." The little one finally smiled. Cough, cough, cough. This child. Why is he choking again? At night, the little one finally finished his homework. He tiptoed in and was about to lie down on the small wooden table beside the kang. I had been pretending to sleep, seething with anger inside. This Luo Qingwan, whenever Shenhui wasn't around, would force Shun-Che to sleep on the hard little long table by the kang. It was already late autumn, and she only tossed him a tattered little quilt. What a venomous woman. How can I trick him into coming to the warm bed? Should I pretend to sleepwalk and pull him up? Or just sit up and scold him a few times, telling him to get over here? Just as she was pondering, Shun-Che crashed down from the table. Well done, now I don't have to pretend to be asleep. I acted as if startled, sprang up from the kang, and started scolding. You little brat. Can't even sleep without causing trouble. Get up here and sleep. What are you looking at? if you sleep there and fall down again in the night, are you trying to scare your mother to death? Shun-Che silently got up and arranged the long table, then hesitantly climbed onto the kang. Finally, he lay down with his feet facing mine, as far away from me as possible. We were like the top left and bottom right corners of a square grid. Why did I feel a little disappointed? Sigh, still have to take it slow. I used my foot to tentatively reach for his little foot. Ouch, so cold, like a rock. He shrank back to the side with a whoosh. Starting tomorrow. Bring hot water at night for me to wash my feet. I grumbled as I assigned the task. Let this kid soak his feet with me. It'll help dispel the cold and dampness from his body. In the darkness, silence, Shun-Che didn't get all bristly, nor did he curse me for humiliating him. He just let out a low Amazing. Haha, looks like my food guide worked. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. Content and satisfied, I fell into a deep sleep. Little did I know, the plot had already begun to develop in an unknown direction because of my tampering. After spending over 2 months with Shun-Che, his father suddenly returned, with a grand procession of several carts laden with goods. They were immediately surrounded by the villagers. As soon as they entered the village, I picked up Shun-Che from school, and from afar, the little one spotted his father. Excitedly, he broke free from my grasp and ran toward him. In the book, didn't Shun-Hui only return next spring? What's going on here? The system lazily chimed in. Host, because of your arrival, the plot has already changed. Oh no, I haven't even managed to build a good relationship with the little one yet. I'm doomed. Sure enough, Shun-Che threw himself into his father's arms and burst into loud sobs. Utterly aggrieved, several well-meaning aunties also chimed in, chattering away to lodge their complaints. Father of the child, you have no idea, over the past 2 years, this wicked woman has nearly tortured the poor boy to death. That's right, she never gives the child a decent meal, and even the clothes she puts on him are worn and thin. The child often shivers from the cold. I've seen the child trembling while washing clothes by the river several times. The river water is so cold, and the child almost fell in and drowned. A few of us helped pull him out, and he kept muttering that if he didn't finish washing, he wouldn't get any food. It's just too pitiful. Watching Shun-Hui's face grow darker and darker, I began to tremble. There weren't these talkative NPCs in the original story either. This Shun-Hui, in the story, has quite a temper. Only Luo Qingwan's green tea tactics can handle him. Shun-Che was crying so hard he couldn't speak. With a dark expression, Shun-Hui picked him up and strode toward me. With each step he took, the sky grew a shade darker, dark clouds blotted out the sun, and a fierce wind began to howl. I pretended to be calm and shouted loudly at the onlookers, "What are you looking at? It's thundering. It's going to rain. Everyone go home and collect your clothes." Upon hearing this, the onlookers suddenly realized and scattered like birds and beasts. But in my heart, there was only one thought: I'm going to die. I'm going to die. System, save me. Let's talk about it when we get back. Shun-Hui gave me a cold glance, filled with murderous intent. I shrank my neck and obediently followed behind. What should I do? I don't know how to play the innocent, sweet act. Is he really going to hit me? Back home, as soon as the door closed, Shun-Che was still sobbing. Shun-Hui gently placed him on the stool and coldly questioned me. Was everything they said true? It was true. The original owner was indeed the wicked stepmother who abused Shun-Che. And I couldn't deny it. Seeing me stammer without a word, he grew furious. Fine, Luo Qingwan. I married you only so you could take good care of Xiao-Che, yet you are so vicious. All these years, I've given you nearly all the silver I earned, and this is how you repay me. Truly, a woman's heart is the most poisonous. Even though he wasn't as wronged as I am. Father, don't blame her. Actually, she has been quite good to me. Shun-Che finally stopped sobbing and spoke in a low voice. My treasure. Your mother's love for you was not in vain. Woo woo woo. This body is now clear. Shenhui glanced at me, who was feeling guilty, and asked suspiciously, "Don't be afraid, your father is here. Speak boldly. If it's true, I'll divorce her immediately. She can't take a single tael of silver with her." What the hell? Divorce me? I couldn't ask for more, but no money. Who can stand that? Instantly, rage surged from the depths of my heart. I straightened my back and unleashed a torrent of fury. All right, after slaving away like a horse all these days, I'm not even as good as a nanny. Are you marrying a wife or a nanny? And you only married me to take care of Xiao Che. TSK. Look at how capable you think you are. You think you're charming. Actually, you're just versatile and cheap. What are you glaring at? The child already said I treat him well. Are your ears stuffed with donkey hair? If you want to divorce me, hurry up and do it. But you must give me enough silver. This is my compensation for emotional distress. After all, marrying someone like you is my loss. Shenhuai's face twisted with anger as he roared loudly, "Luo Qingwan, have you been possessed? What nonsense are you talking?" I clutched my chest and spoke sarcastically. "Stop barking like a dog. I was scared by a dog when I was little. So scary, Tilda." Shenhui was stunned by my scolding. A handsome face flushed to a purplish hue. He raised a hand and pointed at me. Trembling as he spoke, "You dare call me a dog?" I rolled my eyes and decided to turn up the heat. "Calling you a dog is an insult to dogs. I suggest you see a vet as soon as possible if you're sick. Even the water Jingwei used to fill the sea isn't as much as the nonsense in your head." In the original text, Shenhui was often away from home and eventually brought back a beautiful young wife. That woman was even more cunning than Luo Qingwan, adept at putting on a show. And even Shen Che acknowledged her as his mother. Later, after Luo Qingwan was divorced and suffered greatly, she frequently offered malicious advice. Shen Che's descent into darkness in the later stages was largely due to her corrupting influence. No matter how malicious Luo Qingwan is, she shouldn't have been cheated on. What woman could bear being treated like a nanny? I truly can't stand it anymore. What kind of idiotic talk is this? Marrying someone just to take care of the kids, and then expecting them to live like a widow. Just as Shenhui was about to raise his hand to hit me, Shen Che loudly stopped him. "Dad, she really treats me well. Look at the clothes I'm wearing." As he spoke, he pulled Shenhui into the room, opened his small trunk, and inside lay neatly arranged new clothes for all 4 seasons. Then, he dragged him to the kitchen to show him the dinner ingredients I had prepared. Chicken, beef, fish, and meat, everything was available. I even specially placed snacks for him in the small square box by the desk, with all kinds of pastries, delicate and petite. After looking around, Shenhui's anger subsided quite a bit, but he still eyed me suspiciously. "Xiao Che, does she know I'm coming back and is putting on a show for me on purpose?" I nearly spat my tea right in his face. "Bro, judging by your logic, does your rectum go straight to your brain? Just open your mouth and let it all out, and you think I know. What? Did I plant a GPS on you? Or am I the one who can tell fortunes? Did I predict you'd suddenly come home today? Come on, you want to tell fortunes? What kind of fortune can you even tell?" Shenhui finally understood the last sentence. He was so angry he immediately flipped the table and was ready to throw hands. Shen Che grabbed him, and I ran outside, plopping down on the ground. Then, I imitated my grandma's intangible cultural heritage, slapping my thigh and wailing, "Oh dear, everyone, come and see, he's hitting a woman. He hasn't come back for years, and as soon as he returns, he hits a woman." Everyone put down their bowls and chopsticks, coming out to point and watch the commotion. Shen Che ran out and grabbed my arm to comfort me. "Don't cry, my dad didn't mean it that way. Xiaobao, you don't understand. I have to teach this scumbag a lesson," I thought to myself, yet I wrapped my arms around him in one swift motion. This was the first time I had ever hugged him. The little guy stiffened all over. But he didn't pull away. He even reached out a small hand to gently pat my back. Everyone saw it and was astonished, whispering and discussing among themselves. I told you so. She's been really good to Xiao Che lately, but you all just had to bring up those old, stale stories. Now look, she got hit because of it. Honestly, a child's attitude doesn't lie. See how Xiao Che is still clinging to her. Everyone nodded, turning to persuade Shen Huai, who had chased after them. Maybe we were wrong before. She really does treat Xiao Che well, making him different meals every day and even picking him up from school. Yes. My daughter said she's even a bit envious and wants me to pick her up every day too. Listening to these one-sided remarks, Shen Huai ultimately couldn't bring himself to get angry. He cared too much about saving face and could only suppress his temper, letting me into the house. I understand the principle of knowing when to stop once the goal is achieved. In a second, I stopped talking, stood up, brushed the dirt off my butt, and pulled Shen Che back with me. What do you want for dinner? Braised beef noodles, squirrel-shaped mandarin fish. No food for the stinky man. System. Being vicious to a scumbag still counts as staying in character. Right, I've really figured out how to exploit loopholes. The people behind me were stunned by my restrained acting. Shen Huai also muttered something to himself. It doesn't matter, I don't care about scumbags. At night, Shen Huai watched as Shen Che brought hot water to wash my feet, and was shocked once again. Scumbag. If you leave home for another 6 months, your son will be completely tamed by me. Oh no, am I going to have to sleep with this scumbag later? I don't want to. After reluctantly helping Shen Che pour water, I pulled him aside with a tense expression. You're sleeping next to me tonight. Or there'll be no food for you tomorrow. His little face flushed red as he lowered his head in hesitation. Logically, Shen Che should have returned to his own room to sleep tonight. But that wicked stepmother had long since turned his room into her own clothing storage space. In order to get closer to Shen Che, I had also let it be and didn't intervene. Shen Che doesn't resist sleeping with me, but we always sleep diagonally across from each other, whether he would agree or not. I truly had no confidence in my heart. All right, a voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz interrupted my train of thought. Good boy, mother hasn't doted on you in vain. Overjoyed, I picked him up and carried him onto the kang. Shen Huai watched helplessly as the two of us embraced and fell asleep, angrily puffing out his cheeks to blow out the candle before lying down beside us. An old scoundrel who cheats and keeps a mistress still wants to take advantage of me. Dream on. Ah, poor little Che. Still unaware that his father will find another woman in the future. In the darkness, Shen Che's arm, which was wrapped around mine, shifted slightly and pulled away. Little Bao really isn't used to sleeping while hugging his mother anymore. Well, children do grow up. Lost in these wandering thoughts, I drifted into a deep sleep. The next day, Shen Huai got up early, his face ashen as he announced he was rushing back to Jiangnan. He left without even eating breakfast, his sleeves flapping angrily. Before he left, I managed to corner him and squeeze out a hefty sum. You can be a scoundrel, but the money stays. I need to save up more money before he brings his mistress home. Since I'm determined to redeem Shen Che, I certainly won't hand him over to an even more cunning and malicious stepmother. With the silver in hand, I bought a small tavern in the bustling market district. As a seasoned foodie, conquering the customers with a few modern recipes was a piece of cake. I personally hired a few reliable chefs and taught them the recipes myself, to make management easier. I only taught each person 3 dishes. The kitchen was designed with cubicles to prevent them from spying on each other, under the guise of reducing the impact of cooking fumes. As for wages, I even adopted a rating system. After diners finish their meal, they circle the dishes on the menu that they enjoyed, and for each circle, the cook earns an extra coin. If a dish doesn't meet expectations, we don't deduct pay. Instead, I simply instruct the kitchen to prepare a fresh plate as compensation for the guest. It's not that I can't afford to cover these costs, The cooks take great pride in their work and often compare among themselves to see who has the most circles. If anyone's dish was sent back to be stir-fried again, it was a disgrace. Modern business management and corporate slave management techniques really do have their uses. Before long, the reputation of Spring Breeze Pavilion grew louder and brighter. Silver flowed in like a stream, so I simply bought a larger courtyard and moved in with Shun-Che. On the day of moving into the new home, Shun-Che was very happy. I specifically bought a large yard with a pond and willow trees. I also helped him realize his dream of having an independent study. I even bought him several extra shelves of books, along with brushes, inkstones, and various materials, everything he could possibly need. "Mother, I don't need this much. I don't know when it started." But he began calling me mother so affectionately, so naturally. Was it when he was mocked at the academy for being poor, and I brought him a set of gold inkstones? Or was it when he scored first in the exams but was falsely accused of cheating? That day, I stormed into the academy and threw a tantrum, forcing the teacher to rewrite the exam questions. He lived up to expectations and took first place again, as a proper university student majoring in Chinese language and literature. How could I possibly raise a useless son? At first, I taught him to memorize a few of Li Bai's poems, and the little guy was utterly amazed, looking at me with admiration. From that day on, after school, I would teach him to memorize the masterpieces of literati and scholars from various dynasties. You won't eat until you've memorized all of these. I never forget to maintain the persona of a wicked stepmother, at least in words. He also lives up to expectations. Once he memorizes them, he integrates and applies the knowledge, creating his own poetry, because I teach him that using your mind is not copying. What belongs to others can never truly become your own. He has grown increasingly respectful towards me, sincerely calling me mother with every word. System, see, I'm almost there, Tilda. I proudly boasted about my achievement. The system snorted in response. What's the rush? His father hasn't even returned with the mistress yet. Maybe he'll end up following his father and still turn out crooked in the end. If the mission fails, you'll never be able to go back home. Host, okay. Character collapse leads to immediate elimination. Mission failure means no return to the homeland. The most vicious one is still you. You damn system. Let's wait and see. I respect Shun-Che's choice. If he chooses Shun-Hui and the other woman, I have nothing to say. At worst, the mission fails, and staying here forever wouldn't be so bad. I have my own career, earning stacks of silver notes, free to do whatever I please. Isn't this far better than slogging through university only to become a corporate drone? Over the past 5 years, Shun-Hui had only returned twice. Yet Shun-Che held great respect for him, cherishing every brief moment they spent together. If he chooses Shun-Hui, I wouldn't be surprised either. That day finally arrived. Another year passed. Winter gave way to spring, with grass growing and orioles flying. The spring breeze brushed against my face, carrying the fragrance of flowers. I lay outside the courtyard, basking in the spring sunlight. From afar, a tall, majestic horse came galloping, stirring up a trail of petals along its path. The man on horseback sported a long, finely groomed mustache, his features strikingly handsome. In his arms, he cradled a delicate beauty, her body soft and languid. The scene was truly breathtaking. If that wasn't my husband, looking up, I gazed at a branch of red apricot blossoms outside the wall and sighed. Spring is in full bloom. Shun-Hui dismounted from his horse and, seeing me sitting with my eyes closed in the rocking chair, said coldly, "Stop pretending. All these sunflower seed shells on the floor were cracked by you, weren't they?" I opened my eyes with a mocking smile. Oh my, a distinguished guest has arrived. Please, come in." The woman behind him spoke softly. "Brother Shun, is this Sister Luo?" The voice was clear and melodious, but I was far from pleased. "Stop calling me that. My mother only gave birth to one child." She seemed startled by my tone, her eyes reddening. Brother Shen. My temper flared up instantly. What are you cackling about? Are you a hen about to lay an egg or something? Shen.He scolded. Why do you always speak so crudely? You don't act like a proper woman at all. Oh, you bastard. I gave you face, didn't I? I stood up, hands on my hips, and started unleashing a torrent of abuse. I'm like your dad, and your dad can curse whoever he wants. Got it? Not only will I curse you, but I can also carve it on your tombstone. Buy one, get one free. I'll cover both of your tombstones. What a scumbag and a bitch. Just stay locked together and stop harming others. While passionately venting, a question came from behind. Mother, what does scumbag mean? Shen.He came home from school, looking puzzled upon hearing my words. A scumbag? Let me put it this way. Someone who discards his wife as easily as taking off a shoe, and treats affection and loyalty as fleeting clouds that can be called a scumbag. I shook my head and explained it all. He suddenly looked enlightened. So that's how it is. Actually, I've wanted to ask you since I was 7. A small head filled with big questions. Mom, why do you curse Dad like that? Before I could speak, he glanced at the green tea nearby and became disappointed. Dad, who is she? Shen.He ultimately didn't want to lose face in front of his son, saying they should go inside to talk. I stopped them. No, this is my courtyard. I don't welcome either of you. If you have something to say, say it here. Shen.He looked at my domineering demeanor, then glanced at the tearful green tea. Xiao-Che, her name is Yang Yicha. From now on, she will be your mother. I want to divorce that shrew, Luo Qingwan. After saying this, he looked at Shen.Che with a confident expression, as if victory was already in his grasp. You should live with us from now on, so that this poisonous woman doesn't corrupt you. The moment of decision had finally arrived. I remained silent, awaiting the male lead's judgment. Yang Yicha spoke softly and gently beside me. Xiao-Che, I've often heard Brother Shen talk about you. You really are quite frail. With that, she dabbed the corner of her eye with a handkerchief and continued with her sweet, insinuating words. Sister, I heard you made him do all sorts of heavy, rough work since he was little. Look at how thin and frail he is. How could you bear it? Before I could even speak, Shen.Che finally couldn't hold back. Who do you think you are? How dare you criticize my mother like that? You're quite skilled at sowing discord. You wretch. Shen.He frowned. How dare you? Xiao-Che, how could you? Just shut up already, Shen.Che roared, even fiercer than Shen.He. I respect you as my father, which is why I've never wanted to curse you. Over the past 5 years, you've only shown up twice, and both times you just saw me at the school gate and left. My mother raised me all by herself, enduring hardships, and even had to go out to do business. When I was bullied, she was the only one who stood up for me. You, as a father, might as well have been dead. Now you come back with another woman, wanting to divorce my mother, and you let this shameless wretch slander her. Are you out of your mind? After shouting these words, Shen.Che's face flushed red, his chest heaving violently as he glared at Shen.He, panting heavily as if he wanted to tear him apart. Shen.He, do you think I'll ever call this wretch mother? Dream on. Shen.Che blinked, and hot tears streamed down his face, yet he walked over and wrapped his arm around my shoulder. Only then did I realize that this kid had almost grown as tall as me. My mother is such a capable woman, yet you don't cherish her. Shen.He, from today on, I no longer have a father like you. Take your despicable woman and get out of here, and never let me see you again. After saying that, he took my hand. Mother, don't worry, I will study hard, pass the imperial exams, and make sure you live a life of comfort. I was moved to tears, but to maintain my character, I blurted out. You little rascal, saying such things on purpose just to make your mother cry. Is that it, my precious child? You chose me. I love you to death. The afternoon's commotion drew all the neighbors out to watch the spectacle, and they all cursed Shen.He. Even his own son refused to acknowledge him. so he could only slink away in disgrace with his mistress. In the days that followed, Shen-Che studied even harder. The following spring, he passed the imperial examination in one go and became a scholar. In the book, he didn't become a scholar until he was 15, but this time he managed to achieve it 4 years earlier. On the day the results were announced, he held a banquet at the Spring Breeze Pavilion, inviting many relatives and friends. The restaurant was bustling with excitement, and everyone speculated that Shen-Che was surely the top scholar. A woman spoke with a sour tone. "Oh, a mere village woman dreaming of raising a top scholar, how utterly overambitious." Shen-Che sneered. "Madam Wang, you may come from a noble family, but can your son achieve the top scholar title?" Madam Wang paled, pursed her lips, and fell silent. That good-for-nothing in her family probably couldn't even pass the imperial examination. Soon, the sound of drums came from outside, and a messenger holding a gong and drum followed the waiter in. "Is Master Shen-Che here? Congratulations, Master Shen-Che, for achieving first place in the examination." The entire hall erupted in excitement, with everyone rising to their feet and looking at Shen-Che with admiration. First place at just 11 years old. Excellent, splendid, Lady Wang anxiously asked. "What about my son? Did Wang Jie pass?" The messenger unrolled the paper scroll in his hand, glanced at it, and shook his head, saying, "I didn't see anyone with the surname Wang." Lady Wang's face instantly turned deathly pale, and she collapsed into her chair. Wang Jie argued from the side, "I'm only 15 this year, so it's not surprising if I don't pass the exam." Madam Wang reached out to hit him. "Pa, others have passed at 11, and you still haven't at 15, what a waste." Wang Jie was furious. Her mother taught her well. "But what can you do? If you're so capable, go take the exam yourself." With that, she turned and stormed off angrily, amidst everyone's jeers. Madam Wang threw down the silver and hurried after her. What's there to be so proud of? Who knows if she'll just be a child prodigy who fades into mediocrity? Shen-Che truly lived up to expectations, using his actions to thoroughly embarrass Madam Wang. Next, at the age of 12, he participated in the provincial examination and became a provincial graduate, then went on to pass the imperial examination in one go, earning the title of *Jinsha*. The following year, at 13, he triumphed in the palace examination, achieving the top honor of *Zhuangyuan*. Madam Wang immediately covered her face and fled, never appearing again at the Spring Breeze Pavilion. That night, as I looked at Shen-Che, who was thoroughly drunk, I felt a sense of pride in my heart. System. Does this count as completing the mission? The system slowly stirred awake. Once Shen-Che takes up his post and becomes a good official, your mission will be considered officially complete. I will soon be able to return to the real world, yet, I cannot find it in me to be happy. Little treasure, will you miss your mother? As I gently stroked Shen-Che's youthful face, I sighed inwardly. It seemed like he was having some kind of dream, as Shen-Che murmured something. "Mother, don't go." That night was the first time I had trouble sleeping since transmigrating into the book. After helping Shen-Che inside to lie down, I spent the whole night in the courtyard, gazing at the stars. The next day, when I opened the courtyard gate, I saw a beggar huddled at the entrance. He was dressed in rags, with disheveled hair and a grimy face. Just as I was about to ask who he was, the beggar looked up, his face lighting up with joy. "Qingwan, it's me, it's actually Shen-Hui," I exclaimed loudly. "Holy shit, how did you end up like this? Mom, who is it so early in the morning?" Hearing my exclamation, Shen-Che came out rubbing his eyes. "My son," without waiting for a reaction. Shen-Hui cried out and lunged toward Shen-Che. Hearing the voice, Shen-Che recognized him. However, with a swift dodge, he left Shen-Hui grasping at empty air, gazing coldly at the disheveled figure on the ground. Shen-Che sneered, "I have no father, only a mother." Shen-Hui sat on the ground, wailing loudly. He poured out his years of suffering in broken sobs, Back then, he took Yang Yicha to settle down in Jiangnan. At that time, she was already pregnant, with his natural talent for business. He could have thrived there, but after giving birth to their son, Yang Yicha started running out every day. He also stole his money multiple times, each time taking larger amounts. Shenhuai's business also became increasingly unsuccessful, and in a short time, he had nearly squandered the family fortune. Finally, when the child was 3 years old, he noticed something was wrong. He secretly followed Yang Yicha and discovered that she was cheating on him behind his back. That person turned out to be his rival. Furious, Shenhuai questioned Yang Yicha about why she had betrayed him. The man sneered, saying he was about to go bankrupt and lose everything. Yet he was still hung up on romantic entanglements. How laughable. Yang Yicha giggled softly, not bothering to dress properly, and leaned coquettishly into the man's arms, murmuring, "I thought you were clever, but it turns out you're so foolish." It turns out that Yang Yicha's first meeting with him 5 years ago was arranged by that person. The child isn't his either, it's that person's. They only wanted to bankrupt him completely. Shenhuai, driven to madness, tried to rush forward and fight, but he was thrown out the door by several burly men. When he returned home, he found that his son had long since disappeared without a trace. The house had also been sealed by debt collectors. Overnight, Shenhuai became a penniless man with nowhere to go. The seed of hatred grew into a towering tree. Finally, one day, he disguised himself as a servant and followed the two onto a painted pleasure boat. After the fire broke out, he relied on his excellent swimming skills to dive to the bottom of the lake and escape. The two, however, in a desperate struggle to survive, dragged each other down, and both ended up drowning in the lake, after avenging his great grievance. Shenhuai begged all the way back to this place. Upon hearing that his son had achieved the top honors in the imperial examination, he rushed over in surprise and excitement to claim their kinship. "I told you, I have no father, only a mother." Ignoring the look of utter despair on his face, Shen Chen closed the gate. Shenhuai hadn't wailed for long at the main gate before he was seized by patrolling officers. "How dare you cause a scene outside the home of the top scholar Shen? Take him away. Take him away." And so, he was thrown into prison, without power, influence, or anyone to rely on. Getting out was likely to be difficult. Shen Che, for the first time ever, prepared a whole table of delicious dishes for me. "Mother, today I won't go anywhere, I'll stay and keep you company." "All right," I nodded with a smile. "This kid, his cooking skills are pretty good too. Indeed, he's the one I've raised since childhood. I wonder which family's daughter will be lucky enough to marry him someday." Shen Che kept toasting one cup after another, and I couldn't help but feel sorry for him, urging him to drink less. In the end, he got himself drunk again. I forgot to tell this kid, in modern times, I was known as the 1,000-cup drunkard. Looking at the boy slumped over the desk, his face flushed red, my eyes filled with reluctance. Soon, the transfer order came down, and he went to take up his post at the Hanlin Academy. That would be the moment my mission was successfully completed, and the time for me to leave. "Mother, please don't go." He lay slumped over the wine table, tightly gripping my hand and murmuring, "You little rascal, your grip is way too strong, you're hurting me." I scolded him with a laugh, but couldn't break free. "Mom, I can only speak my heart when I'm drunk. Please, just listen to me." Actually, I don't know why, but it seems like I've always been able to hear the thoughts in my heart. Ever since I was 5 years old, my heart skipped a beat. "I know you're not really my mother, but you've been very good to me. That bad woman, I don't want to know where she went at all, but I'm really afraid she'll take you away. Mom, I know you can't say sweet words, but everything you do is for me, I understand. And I can tell the difference. When you were worried and afraid that my scumbag father would take me away, I really wanted to tell you, don't be afraid, I will always choose you firmly, you will always be my mom." His voice choked up, and he began to sob. "System, What on earth is going on? I asked in my mind. Actually, Shen-Che is bound to a system that can hear your inner thoughts. As long as your inner thoughts are related to him, he can hear every single one of them clearly. So, all these years, all the thoughts I've had, all the times I called out little treasure, darling baby, he heard them all. Ah, I'm so embarrassed. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I angrily questioned. The system innocently yawned. You never asked. At that moment, as if hearing my inner thoughts, Shen-Che choked up and spoke again. Mom, I love it when you call me little treasure, my dearest darling. Don't feel embarrassed, and please don't leave me behind again, okay? Before I could respond, he struggled to his feet and buried himself in my embrace. Just like when we were children, he wrapped his arms tightly around my waist. Warm tears streamed down my neck, burning with a pain that ached in my heart. System, if the mission is completed, can I choose to return or stay? Of course. But there's no chance for regret. Please think carefully, host. After saying this, the system fell silent. I gently patted Shen-Che's back, comforting him in my heart. Don't be afraid, Mother won't leave you behind. In the days that followed, we tacitly agreed not to bring up the matter again. On the third day of the third lunar month, the sun shone brightly, and the weeping willows danced playfully in the gentle breeze. Shen-Che stood tall in his official robes, already carrying the air of a grown man. As he rode away on horseback, the system began its countdown, urging me to make a decision. Shen-Che's eyes were bloodshot, his grip on the reins tight. Reluctant to speak, Mother, I've been thinking these past few days, I can't be too selfish. You have your own family in that world too. I can't let you abandon them for me. I can take care of myself now. Even if that wicked woman comes back, she can't hurt me anymore. He actually understood all my considerations. In an instant, tears streamed down my face. Xiaobao, actually, I wasn't happy in that world. My parents only dote on my brother, but they don't like me. You are more like family to me than they are. So, Mom has decided I'm not going back. I'll stay with you forever. At the same time, I pressed the selection button. Finally, I can say it out loud with my own voice. Little treasure, Mother is waiting for you to come home. After the system left a final wish for my happiness, its laughter gradually faded into the distance. Shen-Che was overjoyed, dismounting from his horse and rushing toward me, under the sunlight. The boy ran towards me with red-rimmed eyes and a beaming smile, his entire being glowing brightly. He did not grow up in hardship, developed a sound character, and will no longer be cruel, violent, or reckless. He is very sensible, has always studied hard, and will become a kind and good official. He is also an outstanding child. In his eyes, I was the one who saved him, but he didn't know that he was also my salvation. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The Crown Prince returned from his southern tour on behalf of the Emperor, bringing back a woman named Qiao Zheng. She said she came from a faraway place, where only monogamy was practiced, and men were absolutely forbidden from taking concubines. The first time Qiao Zheng saw me, she looked down on me and declared, I will only be the Crown Prince's principal wife. I will not share him with anyone. Looking at her swollen belly, I was puzzled and asked, monogamy? But the Crown Prince and I have been betrothed since childhood, and our wedding ceremony is to be held in a month. What should we do now? The Crown Prince said, Zheng's pregnancy is unstable. Why don't you give way to her for now? Once she gives birth to the child, I will welcome you back. I smiled. My father is the Grand Marshal of the nation, commanding all the military forces in the land. No matter who becomes the Crown Prince, I am the undisputed Crown Princess. Qiao Zheng stroked her belly with a proud expression. Here, they value the mother for the son's sake. Now that I carry the Crown Prince's flesh and blood, you should step aside and make way for the worthy. In my hometown, only monogamy is practiced. Yuanan promised me that he would only be my husband. Sister, while you're still young, you should marry someone else. I stared dumbfounded at the woman before me. I recognized every word she said, but when strung together, I couldn't understand them. She didn't address him as His Highness the Crown Prince. Instead, she called him by his given name, Yuanan, over and over, and she wanted me, the Crown Princess, to step aside and make way for her, to marry someone else. Before I could even react, Yuanan gently helped her sit down, then approached me with a look of both adoration and helplessness. Zhenghe is very independent, with her own convictions and ideas. In time, you'll understand, none of you can compare to her. She has a mind full of brilliance, unlike you women confined to the inner chambers. My heart belongs to her. Zhaohua, you must understand. As the Crown Prince, there are certain matters that require you to make sacrifices. Zhenghe's pregnancy is unstable. Why don't you give way to her? Once she gives birth, I will welcome you into the Eastern Palace. Qiao Zheng looked at me with a smug expression, pretending to offer sincere advice. We women should also strive for independence, not just rely on men. Even as women, we should have our own thoughts and lives. I don't care about her thoughts. My thought is that I am the Crown Princess, the future Empress. Are you kidding me? My father is the Grand Marshal of the nation, commanding all the troops in the empire. I am the Crown Princess personally appointed by imperial decree, and we are to be married in just 1 month. And now the Crown Prince says he wants to marry a commoner. News of the Crown Prince bringing a woman back to the palace quickly reached the Empress's ears. The very next day, a palace eunuch came to summon me to the palace. Today happened to be the day when titled ladies entered the palace to pay their respects to the Empress. Qiao Zheng was carefully escorted into the main hall by the Crown Prince. She neither knelt nor bowed, but simply raised her head and declared loudly, "Qiao Zheng pays her respects to Her Majesty the Empress." The Empress frowned. The Crown Prince hurriedly explained, "Mother, Zhenghe is not yet familiar with palace etiquette. And she is with child. Once I find someone to properly instruct her, I am sure you will come to like her in the future." He beamed with joy as he led Qiao Zheng forward. "Zhenghe is exceptionally intelligent and has helped me solve many problems in Jiangnan. We are deeply in love, and now she is with child. I wish to make her the Crown Princess." In an instant, the noble women all turned their eyes toward me. Some looked at me with sympathy, while others watched with amusement, as if waiting to see me humiliated. Clang! The teacup in the Empress's hand fell to the ground. Trembling, she asked, "Yuanan, do you know what you are saying? Your marriage to the Jiang family's young lady has already been announced to the world. It is not something you can simply discard as you please. She has done nothing wrong. If you go back on your word, what will the officials and people of the realm think?" Qiao Zheng declared proudly, "Your Majesty, although Yuanan is the Crown Prince, he also has his own thoughts. If he cannot even decide his own marriage, how can he become the master of the world in the future? Wouldn't that make him a mediocre person who only knows how to hide behind his parents?" The noble ladies gasped in shock. There was likely no second person in the world who dared to speak to the Empress in such a manner. The Empress's face darkened like water, but Yuanan looked deeply convinced. He glanced at Qiao Zheng with affection and then declared resolutely, "Although I am engaged to Zhaohua, we have not yet married. Now, I wish to make my own decision. Mother, Zhenghe is already carrying your imperial grandson. Could it be that you do not care about this either?" The queen closed her eyes, took a deep breath. After years in the inner palace, she had long since hardened her heart. She said sternly, "I will not agree to your request to break off the engagement. The Crown Princess must be the legitimate daughter of the Jiang family." Yuanan stepped forward, looked at me standing beside the queen, and suddenly sneered, "Zhaohua, don't think that just because the Empress supports you, you can sit in the position of Crown Princess. What else can you do besides relying on your father's power? I tell you, Do not think you can threaten me with the military power of your Jiang family. This empire is surnamed Yuan, not Jiang. I am the future son of heaven, and your Jiang family can only bow and obey." A cold laugh echoed in my heart. Yuanan must have gone mad. For the sake of a woman of unknown origin, he was willing to turn against the Jiang family, no matter what the empress thought. I could not allow him to insult and belittle the Jiang family. I stepped forward and knelt in the hall, my voice resounding with conviction. "Your Majesty, the Crown Prince and Miss Qiao are deeply in love. I, Qiao Hua, do not wish to be the one who destroys another's feelings, nor am I willing to humble myself. The Jiang family has an ancestral rule: women of the Jiang clan shall not become concubines. Therefore, I humbly request that your Majesty grant the Crown Prince's wish. I, Qiao Hua, am willing to annul the engagement. I wish your Highness and Miss Qiao a loving marriage, blessed with 100 sons." With that, I untied the phoenix-shaped jade pendant bestowed by the Emperor at our engagement from my waist and raised it above my head. The Empress looked at me, her eyes flickering uncertainly. "Qiao Hua, you," Yuanan stepped forward and snatched the pendant from my hand. "Very well, Lady Jiang. Since you are so understanding, I will remember this. Once Zhanga gives birth to a royal heir, I will persuade her to allow you into the Eastern Palace to serve." The noble lady's gazes toward me were now filled with pity, and they began to whisper, disregarding the Empress's presence, "What is this woman's background, that she could make the Crown Prince lose his mind? Where in the entire realm could one find a more powerful in-law family than the Jiangs? Has the Crown Prince gone mad? That seductress is carrying the Crown Prince's child. No wonder she dares to act so arrogantly, without family background, without connections, and of unknown origin. Does she still think she can become the Crown Princess? Because of some inexplicable woman, the position of Crown Princess changed hands overnight. For me, this was an immense humiliation. I stood in the center of the great hall, gritting my teeth and straightening my back. The noble consort walked over, warmly taking my hand. "Qiao Hua, come to my side. Today, my palace has prepared lychee cakes, very fresh. Come with me to clear your mind." The virtuous consort on the other side was not to be outdone, taking my other hand. "Yanga has also entered the palace today. He secretly told me long ago that he has admired you for a long time. Why not come to my palace for a visit? I heard he brought many rare books from Jiangnan, as well as some precious tribute tea. Our Yanga is not like others, who only covet beauty. He is most sincere and dedicated, focusing solely on state affairs." The noble consort shot a glance and tightened her grip on me. "Better to come to my palace first." Yuanan's face instantly darkened like the bottom of a pot. He broke off the engagement with me, assuming that my reputation was tarnished and I would have no one to marry for a while. He was just waiting a few months to request the Emperor's decree to take me into the Eastern Palace as a concubine. By then, he would have the beauty Qiao Zheng and my father, the Grand Marshal, under his control. But he never expected that as soon as our engagement was broken off, I would immediately become a highly sought-after prize. I smiled and said, "Ladies, don't rush. How about we first go to the noble consort's palace for some pastries, and then visit the virtuous consort's palace for tea?" Good. Let's do just that." The noble consort and the virtuous consort paid no mind to anything else, only taking me by the hand and leading me out of the hall. Completely ignoring the Empress and the Crown Prince, whose faces were dark with anger in the main hall, I spent half a day in the palaces of the two consorts, and by the time I left the palace, it was already dusk. Just as I stepped onto the waiting carriage, someone grabbed my arm. It was Crown Prince Yuanan. He glared at me with a grim expression. "Are you truly so fickle? You've only just broken off your engagement, and you're already eager to get close to another man. Qiao Hua, I told you. Wait a few more months, and I will naturally welcome you into the Eastern Palace. Why are you in such a hurry?" I broke free from his grasp. Your Highness, I have no connection with you whatsoever, so how can you speak of entering the Eastern Palace? A daughter of the Jiang family does not become a concubine. You are well aware of the Jiang family's ancestral rule. Please do not speak such nonsense again. He let out a mocking laugh. A concubine, even as the crown prince's concubine. You would stand above 10,000 others. What is there to be dissatisfied with? Do you think you can still find a noble husband, as the crown prince of Yuanding, who would dare to covet the consort I have chosen? My brothers don't truly like you either. Don't delude yourself. What they covet is your father's military power. I stared steadily at him. And what about you, crown prince? Isn't it the power of my Jiang family that you covet? Yuanan's face turned pale, then flushed red. Suddenly, a clear and bright voice came from behind us. Miss Jiang, Her Highness has ordered me to escort you back to your residence. A man clad in full military attire rode up on horseback, dismounted with practiced ease, and approached with an imposing presence. He is the son of Consort Zhao, the third Prince Yuan Xian. I have seen him a few times. He has accompanied his father on many campaigns and is a man of strong character. Upon seeing the crown prince, he first bowed and said, Elder brother. Yuanan looked at him. Third brother, when did you return to the capital? Yuan Xian smiled and replied, I just returned to the capital. Earlier, I went to the palace to pay my respects to father and mother consort, as it's already late. Mother consort asked me to escort Miss Jiang back to her residence. Brother, let's catch up another day. I'll see Miss Jiang home first. I quickly dodged behind the third prince. Your Highness, let's hurry and go. The crown prince remained relentless, blocking our way. Chaohua, I'm telling you, in this lifetime, you can only enter the Eastern Palace. Yuan Xian pushed his hand aside and stood in front of me. Yuanan sneered coldly. Third brother, you dare to stop me? Then he turned to look at me. No wonder you were so quick to break off the engagement. It turns out you already had someone else lined up. A woman like you, who lacks virtue and integrity. How could you ever be worthy of the position of crown princess? Yuan Xian swung the long sword in his hand, and the horse beside the crown prince let out a sharp neigh, startling and frightening Yuanan, who flushed with anger. Third brother, you have quite the nerve. Yuan Xian helped me into the carriage, then turned back and replied, Please forgive me, elder brother. I was merely switching the sword to my other hand. I never expected your prized steed to be so easily frightened. His face was cold and arrogant, carrying an air of battlefield severity that made people dare not look directly at him. After speaking, he leaped onto his horse. Let's go. Then, he rode off with me in a grand departure. Upon returning to the estate, my father had already received the news. Furious, he stomped his spear on the ground and roared, How dare he bully my daughter? Ha, so be it if he wants to break off the engagement. Is my daughter worried about finding a husband? With my 400,000 elite soldiers, must I endure his arrogance? Hurrah! Don't worry, just tell me who you have your eye on, and I will. I quickly covered my father's mouth, trembling as I glanced at Yuan Xian. This was a prince of the current dynasty. My father really dared to say anything. Yuan Xian sighed helplessly. Marshal, please be careful with your words. If outsiders hear, I fear it could tarnish your lifelong reputation. My father's eyes lit up as he patted Yuan Xian's shoulder. Your Highness, you know, back in the day, old Zhao and I had some friendship. I respect you as a man of character, and we're practically family. So, why don't you marry Chaohua? He treated the third prince as if he were no outsider at all. His tone filled with intimacy and admiration. That one sentence made both the third prince and me blush deeply. The third prince quickly took a few steps back and said, Marshal, Miss Jiang, I must take my leave and return to the palace now. With that, he fled in a panic. As soon as the third prince left, my father's expression darkened, and he returned to his room. Slamming his hand on the table, he exclaimed, My daughter has suffered such humiliation. Chaohua. The The marriage between the Jiang family and the royal family is set in stone. Since Yuanan doesn't want you to be the crown princess, then we'll just have to change who becomes the crown prince. I knew why the emperor insisted that the future crown princess must come from the Jiang family. It was because of the 400,000 troops under my father's command. Only by uniting the Jiang family and the royal family through marriage could he sit securely on the throne and maintain balance among all factions. Yuanan is the emperor's legitimate son. With such a father-in-law, he will be able to secure the throne of the supreme ruler in the future. But no one expected that the crown prince would be so foolish as to actively seek to depose me, the crown princess. The next day, the emperor summoned my father and me to the palace. In the imperial study, the crown prince was kneeling on the ground, lodging a complaint. "Father, the third prince has been privately associating with foreign officials and is overly close to the Grand Marshal. He even dared to snatch my concubine." Yuan Xian looked utterly innocent. "Brother, please be careful with your words. I followed the marshal on campaign. How could I possibly make an enemy of him? Yesterday, my mother saw that it was getting late and worried that Miss Jiang, being a young woman, might not be safe traveling alone. That's why she ordered me to escort her out of the palace. I dare not accept such a baseless accusation. Besides, that day in the Empress's palace, your engagement with Miss Jiang was already called off, and the marshal never agreed to give his daughter to you as a concubine. How can you accuse me of stealing her? A desirable daughter attracts suitors from 100 families. Just because you don't like her, does that mean no one else is allowed to court her?" Yuanan looked at the emperor and said sternly, "Father, Zheng is carrying my child. How can I let my own flesh and blood be born without a name or status, only to be called a bastard? Moreover, if the illegitimate eldest son is born first, it will sow the seeds of chaos in the family in the future. That is why I must make Zheng my principal consort. I am the crown prince. Having 3 wives and 4 concubines is perfectly normal. For Jiang Chaohua to break off the engagement just because she cannot be the principal consort is nothing short of domineering." The emperor turned his gaze to the crown prince, his face darkening as he asked, "Nonsense. You and Chaohua have been betrothed since childhood. How can you break the agreement over a commoner girl? Are you certain you want to cancel the marriage with the Jiang family for her sake? Do you have no regrets?" The crown prince lifted his head. "I will never regret it," Zheng once said. "If I cannot even decide my own marriage, how can I make decisions for the people of the world in the future? Once Zheng gives birth to the child, I will bring Jiaohua into the palace. She can be made a consort then, just 1 rank below the main wife." My father and I followed the eunuch into the imperial study, just in time to hear the crown prince's words clearly. My father feigned panic and knelt down with a thud. "Oh dear, Your Majesty, Your Highness the Crown Prince. I already betrothed my daughter to the third prince yesterday." As soon as he finished speaking, the room fell into complete silence. After a long pause, the emperor looked up at father and asked, "What did you say? To whom did you betroth your daughter?" Father pointed at Yuan Xian and said, "To the third prince." After speaking, he instructed eunuch Qin, who was standing beside the emperor, to fetch a sword from outside the hall. When the third prince proposed to me, he left this sword as a token of his pledge. I felt it was improper. How could a marriage be privately arranged without the consent of Your Majesty and Her Majesty? That is why I specifically came to the palace today to report this matter to Your Majesty. My eyes widened in disbelief. That sword was clearly the one my father had won from the third prince during a military camp competition in the past. Yet now, in his mouth, it had become a token of love. Yuan Xian stared at the sword for a moment, then quickly regained his composure. He knelt and kowtowed, saying, "Father, it is true that I admire Miss Jiang. She is well educated, graceful, and virtuous. My mother also likes her very much. In the past, when you betrothed Miss Jiang to my elder brother, I dared not compete with him, so I never met her in private. Keeping this affection buried deep in my heart, yesterday, when my elder brother publicly broke off the engagement with Miss Jiang, I could not bear to see such a fine lady humiliated and feared she would be heartbroken. That is why I rushed to ask for her hand in marriage. I beg your majesty to forgive me for not reporting this matter earlier. The empress and the noble consort had hurriedly arrived by now. Upon hearing these words, the empress gritted her teeth and said, "Zhao, marriage is a serious matter, not something to be treated lightly. Yesterday, the crown prince was merely jesting in the moment." "How could you take it so seriously?" I immediately responded. "Your Majesty, the crown prince is the heir to the throne. His words carry immense weight. How could they be mere jest?" Moreover, at that time, all the inner and outer court ladies were present. Everyone knew that the crown prince intended to marry Miss Qiao as his principal consort, which is why he annulled the engagement with me. As for the betrothal token, I have already returned it publicly. Yes, yes, yes. The noble consort quickly chimed in, giving Yuan Shen a meaningful glance as she stood behind him with a beaming smile. Yesterday we were all in the hall, and I can testify to that. After speaking, she gave the emperor a coquettish glance. "Your Majesty, how can you be so biased? Is the crown prince your son? But Shenna not your son?" The implication was clear. As long as you have the support and loyalty of the Jiang family, and as long as Jiang Chaohua marries into the royal family and becomes a daughter-in-law of the imperial house, it doesn't matter which prince she marries. The imperial consort, who was favored above all others in the harem and deeply cherished by the emperor, made him realize her point. After a moment of thought, he nodded and said, "When have I ever been biased? Enough, enough. Since Shenna is fond of her, and he and Miss Jiang make a fine match, I shall order the Ministry of Rights to draft an edict, appointing Miss Jiang as the third prince's consort, and select an auspicious date for the wedding." The empress shrieked, "No, your Majesty, Zhao is the crown prince's betrothed. How can one woman be betrothed to two brothers in succession?" Yuanan also changed his expression. "I beg your Majesty to reconsider. The matter of my betrothal to the Jiang family is known throughout the land. If she were to become my brother's wife now, I fear it would invite endless gossip among the officials and commoners." The empress and the crown prince, mother and son, were both aggressive and domineering, as if they would rather destroy what they couldn't have. My father clenched his fists and immediately reacted. He prostrated himself on the ground, weeping with tears streaming down his aged face. "Your Majesty, since childhood, I have been your study companion, and later I managed military affairs for you. You know that I have few children, only this one daughter left by my late wife. I only wish to find someone who will cherish and care for my daughter. I care nothing about being the father-in-law of the nation. Now, the crown prince has cancelled the engagement with her just 1 month before the wedding and even intends to demote her from wife to concubine. The entire capital is laughing at her. Fortunately, the third prince holds us in high regard, sparing our Jiang family from utter disgrace. If your highness the crown prince speaks like this, and word gets out, are you forcing my Chaohua to prove her innocence with her death?" After speaking, she kowtowed again. "I beg your Majesty to issue the marriage decree at once, to silence all the idle gossip. Your highness the crown prince, since you have already decided to marry another woman, please let my Chaohua go. This old minister begs you." With that, he prepared to kowtow to the crown prince once more. I crawled over on my knees and threw myself into my father's arms, tears falling like rolling pearls. "Father, don't be afraid. At worst, your daughter can shave her head and become a nun. If that's not enough, I still have death. No matter what, I cannot bring shame upon our family." The father and daughter clung to each other in front of the hall, weeping bitterly. The imperial consort, wiping her tears, tugged at the emperor's sleeve. The crown prince and the empress were stunned. While the emperor's face grew darker and darker, he had no choice but to speak. Summon the scribe to draft the decree. The third prince, Yuan Xian, is of noble character and shall be in theft as the Prince of Yang, the legitimate daughter of the Jiang family, Jiang Chaohua, born of a distinguished lineage, gentle, virtuous, and graceful, shall be in theft as the princess consort of Yang. The Ministry of Rites is ordered to select an auspicious day for the grand wedding ceremony. The imperial consort was overjoyed. "Thank you for your great favor, Your Majesty." With that, she hurried over and helped me up. "Come now, stop crying. This is a joyous occasion. What is there to cry about? From now on, you are my daughter-in-law. I will protect you. Come, let's go to my palace to freshen up. I have collected many precious jewels and accessories, just waiting to give them to my daughter-in-law." The imperial consort paid no attention to the empress at all. She simply took my hand and turned to walk toward the Zhenjia palace. The news that the third prince had been in theft as a prince and I had become his princess consort spread quickly, leaving everyone astonished. Just yesterday, my engagement to the crown prince was called off, and now I had married the third prince. Countless noble ladies watched with envy, their eyes turning red with jealousy. Yuan Xian became the first among the imperial sons to be in theft as a prince, and for a time, his fame soared. Invitations from various families flew into the third prince's residence like paper slips.